I'm working on it.
Pictures of you standing on the same podium.
Yeah, and they're all bad, Howie.
Oh, God.
They're all terrible.
Must be the photographer.
Am I going to mess with anything here, or do you want me to put that here?
Microphone on the side of you.
Yeah, is that it? Right there? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Attorney General Kris Mayes. Thanks for joining us. I know that by now suing the Trump administration might seem like business as usual from this office. This is our 13th lawsuit against the administration. But let me be very clear. This is not business as usual. This is a necessary response to an administration that continues to operate far outside the bounds of the law and the Constitution. We are facing an unprecedented and lawless presidency, one that has made a habit over the last 3 months of disregarding the separation of powers and ignoring the two other co-equal branches of government. From environmental policy to education and public health, President Trump has turned the federal government into chaos at the expense of Arizona families, public employees, states' rights, and the rule of law. Now, that chaos is affecting the private sector too. Donald Trump's insane tariff scheme, which his administration has attempted to unilaterally implement, is not just economically reckless. The president has absolutely no legal authority to issue these tariffs. The tariffs are illegal, and if allowed to stand, they will drastically increase prices for Arizonans in every single corner of our state. Even worse, the administration's on again, off again, herky-jerky approach to announcing and withdrawing these tariffs has injected massive uncertainty into the global markets. That chaos has helped push the stock market to its worst April since 1932, when our country was in the throes of the Great Depression. That is not a coincidence. It's the cost our country is paying for having a president hell-bent on governing outside the bounds of the law rather than staying true to the oath of office that he took and to our Constitution. These tariffs will hurt Arizona industries, our trade relationships, and the global economic stability that Arizonans rely on. From ranchers and farmers to manufacturers and small businesses. The damage is not theoretical. It is happening in real time. The ripple effects are already starting to show. Prices are going up, markets are reacting, international partners are pulling back. The Port of Los Angeles has seen a steep drop in freight traffic as companies begin to halt shipments from overseas. Tourism is dropping. The Greater Phoenix Chamber noted that Canadian tourists provide about $1.4 billion each year to our state's economy. Arizona cannot afford this Trump tax increase. And make no mistake, no matter what Orwellian doublespeak the White House uses, tariffs are taxes. As Arizona Chamber of Commerce CEO Danny Seiden recently said, and I quote, "It's going to cost them more to make things in Arizona, and that price gets passed down to the consumer." Arizona's copper industry, a cornerstone of our state's economy, is also sounding the alarm. Freeport-McMoRan CEO Kathleen Quirk warned about the trade war that could come from these tariffs and that will cause people to not invest, to not buy, and to change their patterns and affect demand. And tariffs are harming Arizona state government too. The Arizona Department of Transportation has a long list of procurement contracts for the purchase of equipment, supplies, and parts that are already being impacted. Many of these items are imported from other countries or have components that are. And these illegal tariffs have already been cited by contractors as a reason for the price increases. So our roads and highways are getting more expensive to build and maintain. Arizona's universities are also being directly hurt by these tariffs. Arizona State University, our state's largest public university and the biggest in the country, does import research that relies on specialized equipment it cannot get from U.S. suppliers. One example is a program called SHIELD USA, which is focused on boosting America's ability to make advanced microchips here at home. If these tariffs go into full effect, that project alone could face up to $1.4 million in extra costs. That's not just wasteful, it undermines the very goal of making U.S. more competitive and secure when it comes to critical technology. That's why my office has once again stepped in. As Arizona's Chief Law Enforcement Officer, I will not stand by while the federal government imposes policies that harm our economy, violates the Constitution, and ignores the limits of executive power. This lawsuit is about protecting Arizonans and businesses at large and small. It is about defending our constitutional system, and it's about reminding this administration yet again that no one, not even the President of the United States, is above the law. And now I am pleased to turn it over to Bill Sandwig of Copper State Coffee, Copy Star Coffee, to detail the impacts that he is seeing from this insanity. Bill, come on forward. Whose are these? Howie, are these yours? No? Okay.
Thank you, AG. Oh, absolutely. I'm ready. You ready? My name again is Bill Sandwig. I own Copper Star Coffee here in Central Phoenix. The newly imposed Trump administration tariffs are going to decimate small business and cool our economy. This is effectively taxation without representation. The executive branch has no authority to impose an import tax on its citizens. I've been in the restaurant industry for 37 years, and this is going to cost us, and it's going to cost our customers. Some of us aren't going to make it. The industry is certainly going to contract in the next 4 to 5 years. Small businesses like mine are going to be the first to feel the pinch. Restaurants are notorious for operating on thin margins. We do not have the ability to raise capital like large corporations do, where they can sell stock and sell bonds to get through tough times. These new taxes are going to be too much to absorb, and they'll have to be passed on to our customers, and Arizonans are going to pay more. Our independent coffee house in Central Phoenix, our primary ingredient is grown around the world in climates that the United States cannot onshore. Our specialty equipment is not built in the United States and cannot be manufactured anytime within the next 4 or 5 years, even if we started building the plants today. While we buy local as much as we can and we produce many of our products in-house, the prices on many of our goods have already gone up. We make our own chai from scratch. I buy about $5,000 a year worth of cardamom, cinnamon, and other spices. Agriculture goods coming out of India are now being tariffed at a rate of 47%. That's now going to cost me $7,500 a year, $2,500 directly to the profit line of my small business. So many of our fresh vegetables are grown in Mexico and Latin America. While the Southwest produces a lot of these crops, we rely on foreign countries to make up the difference during the summer and winter months when it's the opposite season. Think about your local Italian, Mexican, or Asian restaurant. These family-owned businesses rely on specialty ingredients from their motherlands. Think about seaweed, pepperoni, prosciutto, Parmesan, chilies. The list goes on and on, all being taxed at a rate of 10 to 125%. More broadly, the restaurant industry is entering into an immediate growth freeze and a subsequent contraction. The cost to furnish a small kitchen these days is in excess of $200,000 to $500,000. With the tariffs, that's going to escalate to $300,000 to $750,000. And that's going to price out independent operators out of expansion. Corporate restaurants are not going to want to spend the extra 40 to 50% opening a new location because it's simply going to take too long to recoup those startup costs. So those growth opportunities that we are having, we will no longer be adding new jobs to the Arizona economy. And let me be clear, these are all the direct costs that have already incurred and that are incurring as we're talking right now. We're not even talking about the hidden costs or the input costs or parts that might be coming. I recently purchased an ice machine, Manitowoc ice machine, made in America. They have a global supply chain, although they try to focus on American, and that's why I've only ever bought theirs. Ice machine was $8,000, and if that compressor comes out of China, that's now a $10,000 ice machine. We're talking about dramatic increases in the prices of equipment and goods. I was born and raised in Arizona. This is bad for business. This is bad for our economy, and I applaud the Attorney General for standing up for Arizonans. Thank you.
All right, I'd be happy to take any questions, and I'm sure Bill would too, but,
No, we'll take questions after 101.
oh, after, sorry, yeah.
You want to come up first and explain the price of coffee, price of tea in China?
Well, I don't know, but I'm hungry now, so, I don't know about you guys, yeah.
Just gonna serve something.
Next,
All along.
next time.
Press conference and-
I didn't know I was allowed to feed you, but anyway, go ahead.
Okay, this is number 13.
Yep.
Of 272 to come, over the next 18 months. It seems, well, first of all, I notice you've got fewer COVID plaintiffs this time than you've had in the prior ones. Are some of the Democratic attorneys general about fed up with doing this? I mean, you've had up to 23, I think you're down to 14 today. Why fewer plaintiffs?
So we've actually had at least one other, if not more than that, with this many AGs and states on it. I think this is a healthy number of states to be on this lawsuit. I would also add California filed its own lawsuit separately. So I think when you take a look at the population that is covered by this lawsuit and the prior California lawsuit, we're covering a significant number of Americans by filing suit on these tariffs.
Can I have a related question? I know you were talking to the other Democratic AGs on a regular basis. I assume that's still happening. How do y'all decide who takes lead on these cases that are?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. Some of it comes down to, states deciding that a particular area, a particular issue affects us the most, or we have a lot of experience with that, or our state has a particularly harsh impact from the action by the president. Some of it comes down to resources and who is at that moment in a position to file the lawsuit or do the lawsuit. I actually did some of the planning for this lawsuit with Dan Rayfield when I was in Oregon at a town hall up there with him. About 3 weeks ago, we started talking about this lawsuit, and we both felt very passionately about it. I know that our state is going to be dramatically impacted. I mean, I didn't mention this in my opening comments, but as soon as we started to get serious about this, and not long after the tariffs were announced, I started calling our utility executives in Arizona and surveying them about whether or not these impacts are going to impact them and whether or not they are going to have to raise rates as a result of these. And while none of them wanted to go on the record about it, and we'll see if you can get them to go on the record, all of them, not a single utility CEO told me that they didn't think their utility was going to be impacted by this and that rates wouldn't go up as a result of it. So what do I mean by that? Well, some utilities still use wood for their poles. Wood comes from Canada. That wood comes from Canada. All utilities buy transformers. Almost all of those transformers come from Europe or Central or South America. Every utility uses, now basically every utility is buying solar panels. Where do solar panels by and large come from right now? China, which has, I think, at last count, 143% tariff on it, which is really essentially an embargo. I mean, you cannot import products from China anymore with that level of a tariff. So those are the kinds of real world impacts that our businesses in Arizona are going to face. I also spoke with the Fresh Produce Association, and we have a tomato industry that is vibrant in Nogales. That industry is going to be deeply impacted by these tariffs, especially the Mexico tariffs, and the worldwide tariffs, all of which fall under the IEEPA. His alleged use of IEEPA, which we allege is illegal to try to accomplish.
I've made the mistake of reading 38 pages this morning.
Okay.
You admit there, you and your colleagues admit, that there are circumstances under which trade imbalances can be addressed. Currency manipulation, which we know China's been guilty of, can be addressed through tariffs. So where exactly, given that he's talking trade imbalances, he's talking about unfair, he hasn't specifically mentioned dumping, but that's also permissive for going ahead and enacting tariffs. So exactly where is he crossed the line? Because there seems to be evidence of at least some of these things occurring elsewhere.
Well, first of all, a couple reasons. Number one, yes, you're right. There are narrow exceptions that in which Congress has delegated to the president or has allowed through statute for him or her to engage in tariffs. But number one, the president is not using any of those statutes to do these tariffs. He's using IEEPA. Number two, even if he was using those statutes to engage in these tariffs, there are strict parameters and prerequisites that he must meet before he does them. Number three, there are strict time limits on those tariffs that are in those statutes. So it's not really a mystery to see why he chose IEEPA to try to do these tariffs under, because it doesn't have any of those requirements. That being said, no president, and I think this is really important, no president has ever used IEEPA to try to impose a tariff. Why is that? Because IEEPA doesn't even mention the tariff authority. So there's no mention in IEEPA of the ability of a president to engage in tariffs. It's language that is largely referred to and used to engage in things like sanctions or embargoes, but nowhere does it say that he can use tariffs. And even if you assumed, and we do not, that IEEPA could be used for tariffs, it also has a triggering event that says that it can only be used for unusual and extraordinary threat. And then further case law says that whenever a president is engaging in tariffs, the tariff has to have some relationship to the threat or to the emergency that the president is trying to address. And there's no articulation in the president's executive orders and actions that draws a line between these insane tariffs and the alleged emergency that they are claiming.
Can you clarify, are these, the lawsuit is against all the tariffs, or some of them are paused?
Yeah, so the lawsuit itself is against what we call the IEEPA tariffs. And those tariffs are the Canada tariff, the Mexico tariff, the China tariff, and the worldwide tariff. Obviously, part of the problem here is it's an incredibly confusing patchwork of tariffs that he has created with this sort of herky-jerky on and off approach to doing them. But all of those tariffs are the tariffs that are being done under IEEPA, and those are the ones that we are challenging. Some of them are paused for 90 days, but some of them are not. And again, I think we have no idea what's going to happen in 60 or 90 days from now. But it's very clear, as Bill said, that businesses in Arizona are already feeling the effects of this because businesses have no idea how to plan. And they're already feeling the effects of the tariffs that have gone into place. So, yeah, it's those tariffs that we're challenging specifically.
I wonder how that might impact the case, right, if they don't.
Standing and,
Well, again, there's tariffs that are in place already, and this case is probably, this is a case, well, as you know, we filed it in the International Court of Trade. We've asked for a 3-judge panel, and we did not ask for a TRO, but we are asking for injunctive relief and declaratory relief. We'll see how long it takes, but, that 90-day period is going to come and go very quickly. And again, some of the tariffs are already in effect, as I understand.
so you're concerned about the effect of the penguins on the islands and the Indian?
Well, I mean, the fact that he slapped tariffs on an island that has only penguins is further proof that the tariffs have nothing to do with any emergency or harm that he's claiming. I mean, what have the penguins done wrong? What did they do to deserve this? So, I mean, again, not sure what it has to do with anything, but in any case, the point is, while the penguins aren't going to feel the effect of this, Arizonans are. So, and that much is certain, and it's my job to protect Arizonans. It's not my job to protect the penguins, but yes.
There's been lawsuits. I just want, there's been any lawsuit impact or any change?
From the lawsuits in general?
This is the
Yeah.
15, right?
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
The whole,
Sure, and I think our track record is proof that we need to do these lawsuits. We have won temporary restraining orders in almost all of the cases that we've filed, not all of them, but we have managed to stop the worst of the actions that Donald Trump has taken so far, at least where we could as AGs, where we had standing as a state. And I think that's really important, and it speaks to why we're doing this. I did not run for office to sue Donald Trump. It was not on my bucket list, but it is something that I feel strongly that we must do. And as the top law enforcement officer of the state of Arizona, it's my job to stand up for our Constitution, for the rule of law, and for the health and well-being of Arizonans.
okay, which gets to the next question, which is, you're not seeking a TRO. You want to go for preliminary injunction, which could require briefs, counter briefs, oral arguments. So how quickly can you actually get a 3-judge panel to A, hear, and B, decide?
Yeah, we actually, we don't know for sure how quickly we can get it, although we do think that this 3-judge panel is going to take this very seriously. I think any judge in this situation understands the impending doom that our country faces as a result of these tariffs. All you have to do is look at the stock market and understand the catastrophe that this has visited on Americans. And all you have to do is listen to people like Bill and Arizona companies to understand the speeding freight train that they are up against.
This gets back again. You're in
Mhm.
Staff full of attorneys here, how soon, and I realize international trade court is not something you guys normally deal with.
Yeah.
How soon could you actually get the international trade court to rule on a preliminary injunction?
I mean, I think the short answer is I just don't know for sure. Josh, who's my Solicitor General, do you have any thoughts on that?
Josh, here's your chance to make a prediction.
I mean, we don't know for sure. There's another case in the International Trade Court that was filed by some private plaintiffs, and there's a briefing schedule for a preliminary injunction. And in that case, and I think it has a hearing date of around May 13th. So, you know, I think that we'll set an expeditious briefing schedule, but so they can also consider the weighty issues here and get a decision as soon as we can.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Barbara, sorry.
Actually,
Oh,
I'll-
Bill.
I'll bring Bill over so you can get some presently.
If, Bill, are you okay with answering some questions? Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So coffee is one of those things. I'm lucky because I'm a very busy coffee house. And when I went, and we had just about, it was January, I had sat down with my coffee roaster and just entirely unrelated to the tariffs, we locked in a contract for coffee beans. All of my coffee beans come into the United States unroasted, they're little green beans. My coffee beans are locked in and sitting on a dock somewhere in San Francisco in a warehouse. I am good on my price of coffee until November. And then at that point in time, I have no idea. So right now, we're just going to ride it out. I get about 200 pounds of roasted coffee a week, which represents actually 250 pounds of green coffee beans. So that's about 5 of the sacks of coffee beans every week that go through. Those are about 50-pound sacks. You know, right now, I'm lucky. I haven't had a coffee bean price hike. I'm more worried about all of my other inputs, my packaging, my cups. I was mentioning a minute ago that all of Kirkland, paper towels and toilet paper, they manufacture all that in Canada. And so some of these things are exempted under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement, and some of it's not. So coffee bean price, coffee cup price, my cup of coffee, I think I'm $2.50 for a 12-ounce cup, at least until October, November. Yep.
Nice face.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Bill? The last thing I would say, you know, in having those conversations with the utility executives, one of them told me that they literally were rushing to get batteries on the boats in China, as many batteries as they could on a boat in China, as fast as they could, so that they could get it here before the tariffs go into place. I think he said that they got about 1/3 of the batteries on the boat. They weren't sure about the rest of the project, so you can imagine the two-thirds of that project that didn't get on the boat in time could be subject to huge price increases. And again, as you know, and this is a former corporation commissioner in me coming out, what that means is they will attempt to put it into rates. They will try to include it in a future rate increase. And I literally cannot remember a time in the history of Arizona, or at least since I've been watching the Corporation Commission, that it has been asked to deal with a proposed rate increase that has to do with tariffs. Extremely, extremely unprecedented. So, all right, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it.